Hi guys, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I'll miss being in class with you today, but we'll go ahead and make some videos and hopefully these will answer any questions that you have. But if you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to get together with you and help you with answering them. So the first thing we're going to go over is lesson 55. It's talking about fractions and parentheses. We have to remember the PEMDAS thing we talked about in class? It means that we do anything in parentheses first, then the exponents, then multiplication and division, then addition and subtraction, moving from left to right. So if we have a problem that looks like this, 2/5, and then a bracket, 2/3 minus 1/6, plus, in parentheses, 1/3 plus 5/6. So what do we do? Well, whenever there's the brackets or the parentheses, remember that means multiplication. So if I had 2/5 and then in brackets 1/3, that would mean that those two things were multiplied by each other. It would be the same thing as if it said 2/5 times 1/3 with a dot. Okay? So the brackets are very similar to parentheses. Same thing with 2/5 times 1/3. Those two would be multiplied by each other. So when we go here, we have 2/5 and then we see this multiplication thing. And then there's parentheses, then there's an addition, and then there's another set of parentheses on the end of the brackets. So what do we do first? We want to go into the parentheses, that's what the P stands for, and do these things first in order of left to right. So we have 2/3 minus 1/6. In order to do that, we need to change the denominators into the same. They have to have a common denominator before we can add or subtract them. So the least common denominator with a 6 and a 3 would be 6. So that makes changing 1/6 very easy. 1/6 just stays 1/6. 2/3 becomes 4/6, because whatever we multiply the denominator by, we have to multiply the numerator by. We multiply the denominator by 2 to get 6, so we have to multiply the numerator by 2 to get 6. So we have 4/6, which was what 2/3 equals, minus 1/6, which gives us 3/6. And 3/6 simplified equals 1/2, because we want to make sure that we reduce it as far as it goes. So we can replace what's in this parentheses with 1/2, because we figured that out. So we have 1/2 right here. Now let's look at this set of parentheses. This has 1/3 plus 5/6. So we'll do 1/3 plus 5/6. Again, we need to change both of the denominators into the same. They have to have the same denominator before we can add or subtract them. So 5/6 is simple. It remains 5/6. 1/3, we have to multiply 3 by 2 to get 6, so we have to multiply the numerator by 2 as well, and we get 2/6. 2/6 plus 5/6 equals 7/6. So we'll go ahead and add 7/6. Now, those two things were inside of these brackets, so they stay inside of the brackets, and this 2/5 stays the same. So now, what does that equal? We look at this problem, and we're going to want to do what's in parentheses. We still want to do the PEMDAS order. We do the parentheses first, the 1/2, and adding it to 7/6. 1/2, like we can see down here, is the same as 3/6. So if we have 3/6 plus 7/6, that equals 10/6. So now we can replace the 1/2 plus 7/6 into 10/6. Now we see these two are multiplied by each other because they are next to each other, and the bracket stands for multiplication. We can do some cancellation. 5 is a factor of both 5 and 10. So we can take 5 out of 5 and get 1, and we can do 10 divided by 5 and get 2. We can do one more thing. There's a 2 up here and a 6 down here. Both of these are divisible by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So now we have 1 times 2, and the numerator is 2, and 1 times 3 is 3. So the answer to that problem would be 2/3. When you reduce all of this, you end up with 2/3. Okay, so that's basically what lesson 55 is. It's just remembering to do the parentheses first, and that when there's a bracket next to something, it means multiplication, but you do that after you do what's in parentheses. So we're going to go ahead and go on to chapter 56, lesson 56. Lesson 56 is all about percent, and we have already talked a little bit about percents. Percent just means 1 out of 100. You will have some problems that look like this, and we're going to use our math code that we've done before. So when you have a problem that says, what is 1% of 7,500? Let's just do our math code. Do you remember that if this is in your math tips, what is like either X or N gets transferred into equals. Here's the new thing, 1%. We could write it down as 1% like that, but we can't really multiply and divide with it when it's written in this form. So we need to remember to change all the percents to decimals. Decimals are probably the easiest one to work with. You could change them into fractions, but we're going to go ahead and change all the percentages to decimals. 1%. The way you change a percent into a decimal is, if you have 1%, all you have to do to go from a percent to a decimal is to move the decimal point over to the left 2 spaces. You're going to move it to the left 2 spaces. So 1% is written like that, or we can move it 2 places. Now we have this empty spot, which you guys already know, to fill that in with a 0. So 1% becomes, as a decimal, 0.01. We moved the decimal point over 2 spots. So now we can then replace 1% with 0.01. The of becomes multiply. All this you have written down in your notebooks already. And the 7,500 becomes 7,500. Now we can figure it out. We just need to figure out what 0.01 times 7,500 is. So you take 7,500 times 0.01, and you end up with, remember to count the number of places behind the decimal point. There are 2. So we need to move this over twice, 1, 2. So N, or the answer, would be 75. 75 is 1% of 7,500. We're going to go ahead and do another one so that I can make sure that you understand what we're doing. So if your problem says, what is 34% of 7,500? Let's do the math code again, all right? What becomes N becomes equals 0.34%. We need to change this percent into a decimal. We move the decimal point over twice to the left, 1, 2. So 34% becomes 0.34. So I put 0.34 in for that. Of becomes multiplying, and 7,500 stays the same. So when you multiply 7,500 by 0.34, which I'll let you do, you can just go ahead and do that on the side. But when you multiply those out, that ends up with 2,550. And that's our answer. 34% of 7,500 is 2,550. One last one. We can do, what is 140% of 67? What is? All right, let's do the math code. What is N? Is equal 140%. We need to change it into a decimal, so we move the decimal point over to the left twice, and we get 1.4. 1.4 of is multiply, 67 stays 67. When you multiply 1.4 times 67, you end up with 93.8. 4 times 7 is 28. That becomes 26. 7 times 7 is 7. 6 times 1 is 1. 8, 3, 9. We have one spot behind the decimal point, so we move it over. And then we have n equals 93.8. And that's our answer. 140% of 67 is 93.8. Okay, so moving on to lesson 57. And remember, you can pause this at any time and only do the lessons, only watch the lessons that go with your math homework each day. So you're not trying to learn all of these things all at once. So that's what's nice about this video. You can pause it and you can go back and figure out if you need to go over something if you're stuck in your math homework. So you don't have to do these all at once. But the next lesson, 57, is talking about ratios. So if we have something that looks like this, if we have 4/5 equals p over 7, how do we figure this out? Well, we want to figure out 4/5 equals how many sevenths. The way we do that is something called cross multiplication. I'm just going to abbreviate that. And how we do that is we take the numerator on one side of the equation and multiply it by the denominator on the other side of the equation. So we have 4 times 7. Then we take the numerator on the other side of the equation and multiply it by the other denominator, which gives us 5 times p. It makes a cross. That's why it's called cross multiplication. 4 times 7 on one side and p times 5 on the other. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 equals 5p. We've done problems like this. P is being multiplied by 5, so to get rid of it on this side, we need to divide it by 5. And if we divide this side by 5, we need to divide this side of the equation by 5 as well. We've done these before. So the 5's cross off, and we end up with 28/5 equals p. So that would be the answer. P equals 28/5. We can leave it as an improper fraction, like I told you in class, that improper fraction, the numerator being larger than the denominator, only if it cannot be simplified anymore. If this said 56/10, we'd have to divide each of these by 2 to reduce it as far as it would go. That would give us 28/5. So it can be an improper fraction, it just has to be reduced. So that's how you do cross multiplication. Let's try another cross multiplication problem to make sure that you got it. So let's do x over 5 equals 4 over 3. How do we figure this out? We're going to do our crosses like this. We're going to take x times 3 on one side and get 3x. Put the equal sign back in, and then we're going to multiply these two. 5 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. X is being multiplied by 3, so in order to get rid of the 3, we need to divide it by 3. And if we divide this side by 3, we have to divide this side by 3. The 3's cancel out, which leaves us x equals 20/3. 20/3, which we can leave it. That could be our answer, 20/3, because it's reduced all the way. Okay, so let's go ahead and I actually am going to stop the video right here and make another video that will have lessons 58, 59, and 60 on it. So we just went ahead and did lessons 55, 56, and 57. That's the first part of your homework. The next part of your homework will be these lessons, and that will be on the next video. Thank you.